This is The Recap, a weekly reflection on the sermons of Fellowship Baptist Church in Maineville, Ohio, seeking to help you make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Ryan Land, and I'm here with the preacher of this week's sermon, Brent Wilson. Brent, welcome back.
Good to be back, Ryan.
A new sermon series. Excited?
It's been launched.
It's been launched.
Yep.
Hard launched, like a new relationship on Instagram. You know about that?
No.
So soft, there's like two, you want me to explain it to you?
Sure.
So there's two different ways to launch a new relationship on social media. You got a soft launch, which is when it's like you maybe don't show their face,
Okay.
or like you maybe just like post a picture of you like your plate. You know, you're at lunch or whatever, and there's another person, and it's like, oh, who is that? It's like, so that's a soft launch.
Okay.
And then when you post like their name and their face and stuff, that's a hard launch.
Oh.
So there you go. There's some millennial Gen Z knowledge for you.
All right.
Gen Alpha. Well, we're starting the Apostles' Creed, which we didn't change our books. Dang, next week. But the Apostles' Creed is something for 2,000 years. Close to 2,000 years, people would like memorize. And recite. So there were three things that every Christian had memorized for a long time: Apostles' Creed, Lord's Prayer, 10 Commandments. And we've kind of fallen off. But now the things we memorize are like movie quotes. So my icebreaker question to you is, what is the movie that you think you have the most memorized, like from a quote perspective?
From a quote perspective? So it's going to be interesting, because I think I've only seen this movie one time, but I think I have it quoted the most. Pulp Fiction.
Oh, you do quote it sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I can quote long scenes from it.
Oh, that is true. Why?
Because they're great scenes.
Why? Like, that's so funny to me, that having only seen it once.
I've seen those scenes many times, but not the whole movie all the way through.
Yeah, you haven't sat down. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. You know what they call a cheeseburger in France?
A cheeseburger? No.
A quarter pounder with cheese in France?
A Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. What do they call a Big Mac?
Big Mac's just a Big Mac. That's good. That's a movie for the adults that are watching. That's not,
Yes.
Maybe not even you. Maybe you just don't watch it. I think mine's an easy one. A lot of people are going to relate to this, I think. Christmas Vacation.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think there's a quote from every scene that I know, from start to finish. And I quote it year round.
Well, I would say I have a Christmas answer too.
Oh, okay.
And it'd be the live action Grinch.
Oh, yeah. You do quote that a lot. Year round.
Yeah.
You even stand like him sometimes just for fun.
Yeah.
So let's, anytime we start a new sermon series, I always want to kind of ask you, and you kind of actually talked about this in your sermon this week, but why this topic, or why this book of the Bible or whatever. So why the Apostles' Creed, Pastor Brent?
Well, we came out of this sermon series asking, did God really say? And so we were looking at negative things, right? We're looking at things that we think are in the Bible and are not, and correcting those errors. And so what I wanted to do over the summer is transition it into, and I didn't know it was going to be Apostles' Creed, but I wanted to do, whether it was some kind of systematic theology or some kind of just positive, like, the basics of the faith or whatever. And then we kind of landed on the Creed. And one of the things that's really nice about the Creed, and so the reason to do that is just to build positive. Like, this is what we believe.
And when you mean positive, you don't mean like happy, joyful. You mean opposite of, like,
it's just correct.
Yeah. So it's like our last sermon series was, I'm getting a phone call.
Ooh.
That's hilarious. That's never happened before. I've never gotten a phone call before on the podcast. I've never gotten a phone call. No, but not that. It's like the last sermon series was negative in the sense that God did not say these things, negative. And now we're saying, here's what we actually believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were removing things, now we're adding things.
I think sometimes when you hear the word positive or negative, you think like, oh, like optimistic or pessimistic. So I wanted to be clear about that.
And one of the nice things about the Creed is, Ron Gervin said this the other day, and I thought, man, that's so true. He said, repetition is the mother of all learning, right? And so we do our giving prayer at church because the habit, and not even just that, like even the service itself, right, is a habit, is a repetition. You know, when you play a sport, right, it's like, hey, you have to do this thing over and over and over and over and over again. You got to throw the ball over and over again to learn how to be accurate with it or whatever.
I was talking to a kid in youth the other day who's a pitcher, and he was telling me about how much he has to just throw.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like that's all he does is throw.
Right, over and over and over again. One thing I learned when I lived in Virginia, because there's a lot of military guys around there, is that just us, you know, we might know like how to shoot a gun or whatever, right? But if we got into a intense situation, all of your micro movements go out the window because there's so much adrenaline flowing through you. You can't do like the tedial stuff.
You couldn't like sew, right? Because you're like, yeah.
And so people are super inaccurate when they're shooting and stuff like that because of that. And so you have to do all this training so that you have the muscle memory to do the right things when it hits the fan. And so repetition forms us, changes us, builds in us. You know, we do that a lot in songs, right? We memorize songs, but the problem with that is the songs aren't always good. They don't always teach us the right and true things, or they're too abstract or something. And so creeds, historically, and catechisms have been used to teach our children and teach us what the truths of the faith are, right? So we can say, hey, what is justification? Well, justification is the means, you know, and you can give the answer. Right? What is the chief end of man, right? To enjoy God and glorify him forever. Or to glorify God and enjoy him forever.
Who is the first and chiefest being?
Who is the first and chiefest being? And God is the first and
I can't remember what songs, whose songs those are or whatever.
Those are Professor.
It's like a Boys. Professor, yeah, from Boys.
Yeah, that's how I know those to song.
Yeah.
And so the repetition of knowing those just teaches us. And so when because you forget so much information, it's like, but when you have these things memorized, you can pull them out.
Yeah, so. For sure. And in like you were talking about, even in a stressful moment. Yeah. Right. Instead of those being the first things that go out in a time of stress or anxiety or whatever, it's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah. Right. Is when that's what you've repeated. Yeah. Yeah.
So you get in a conversation with someone and they're Mormon and they're saying,
dude, I was just about to say that,
or Jehovah's Witness or something, and they're saying, well, this about Jesus, and it's like, I don't know what to do. Oh, I know the creed says that Jesus Christ, His only Son, our Lord, right? And so it's like, this is the truth. He's the Christ. He's the only Son of God. He's Lord. Whatever. So
yep. So it's interesting you say, like catechesis, because that really is what the Apostles' Creed is, right? It's like one of the first catechisms, like that was written, and so like in its roughest form, this is like 2nd, 3rd century. Yeah, there's a person who is undergoing catechesis is called a catechumen. And the catechumen would learn from these different churches, right? Like they would teach them a rule of faith. And it wasn't like a rule to follow, but it was like a statement of faith, essentially. Yeah. They would memorize this statement of faith. And this is one of the oldest statement of faiths, rule of lives we have.
In its current form, it's about 16 to 1700 years old. Yeah. There's earlier versions of it, but they keep kind of adding some things to it.
It was final, like there was like a not final version, but like they set a version. It was like the 6th century, I think, maybe.
Maybe a little earlier than that. I want to say 1600 years is like when the final one.
And so it's like that's when it became the Apostles' Creed. Here's what it says, and it was repeated in multiple churches. But I mean, you have statements even before this, and it's funny you have them like carved on baptistries. Like things that very closely memorize. Like, you know how maybe this is like an inside secret that you don't want me to give away, but on the inside of our baptistry, don't we have like a thing that tells people what to say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, they had that. That's a real thing. Like that's an ancient historical thing. That's like in their baptistries, they would have these rules of life like carved in there. Like around the edge of the baptistry, not for people to remember what to say. I mean, maybe it was helpful, but I mean, we have there's archaeological evidence of things closely resembling the creed being, 2nd, 3rd, 4th century. So that's for me as like kind of just a history buff. That's just really cool.
Oh yeah.
And you mentioned this is like that we can join our voices and our beliefs with Christians from who knew the apostles, right? Who knew the apostles.
Yeah. And
the apostles' disciples. Let me
yeah. And I also think the creed helps us battle individualism. Right. It's not just me and Jesus and this is all new and trendy and it's me and my experience, but rather I have connected myself to something ancient.
Yes.
To something that has been passed down and preserved for me by God and by all these people. And so I think it just connects you to this is bigger than me. Mm-hmm. This is us. And you know, the creed starts out with I believe, right? But there's a great sense in which it's we believe.
Well, yeah, and I think that's really important because, you know, from a from a teaching perspective, to say to the catechumen, the person learning, hey, here's what we believe, right? And so you say, when you're being baptized or what you're believing, you say, I believe. But then what we're going to do is every week we're going to stand up in the church service and we're going to say, I believe together.
Yeah.
It's like the only time you maybe would recite the creed on your own was before baptism. Mm-hmm. But after that, it's like we're all reciting it together. And so, yeah, it says, I believe, but we're with the assumption that we're all saying it together. So that's so important. I think that, like modern sort of American evangelicalism, there's been this hyper emphasis on like, you got to have a personal relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. And that's true. Right. Yeah. And like, but there's a sense in which like personal is not true, right? It's like you're having a relationship with Jesus and it's like, and it connects you to the entire family of God.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it'd be weird to be like, yeah, I've got a personal relationship with my dad, but I'm ignoring all my siblings. I never talk to them.
Yeah.
I never and it's like, so that's kind of what is like, and so I think that's so important, but I also think, and I've talked to you a little bit about this, that particularly like Gen Z into Gen Alpha, like men, like we're boys, they're not even men yet, but are really, there's a big trend of like, they're moving to like converting to Catholicism or like Eastern Orthodox. And one of the reasons is there's this sort of like stalwart, like, you know, unwavering commitment to like, here's what we've believed and what we've believed for 2,000 years and we're not moving.
Yeah.
And young men are attracted to that because they're in a world where there's none of that.
Yeah.
And they want that. They want that security. They want that belief. And so when it's just, you know, hey, have a personal relationship with Jesus, and what's baptism? Doesn't really matter. Anyone come up here and get baptized. What's communion? You can do it on your own with chips and Coke. And you know, it's like, what's worship music? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not attractive to particularly young men. Mm-hmm. And so to have something that is ancient and has stood the test of time, stood the cultural winds. That's really attractive to some people.
Want the deep waters.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when was the first time you were introduced to not just either this creed or like just creed catechism? Like
probably with Arms Wide Open. That's probably my first introduction to creed.
Yeah.
Like with any sort of like.
Or when it
catechesis or
just when did you either introduce to it or it was like, oh, this is cool?
Gosh, that's a great question. Do you know for you? I gotta think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when I was first introduced to it, but I remember the first time I was like, I like this, and I was home from seminary.
You saw it and you're like, I'm in.
I was home from Bible college, and I was going to a PCA church. Mm-hmm. And they read every week the Heidelberg Catechism.
They're sprinkling babies up in there.
They were, but it was a good church. Besides that part, and I really liked the pastor, and he was kind of taking me under his wing a little bit. But they read the Heidelberg Catechism every week.
Hey, was he submerging you under his wing, or just
he's just sprinkling me under his wing? And I was like, oh, this is so helpful because there's like very particular questions and answers, and every week they'd read one, and we'd all read back, and it's like, oh, this is very instructive.
I'm sure that when I was interning at the church in Texas with our friend Brady, your old roommate, I forget people know him here because he preached here once.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The week of my wedding, I wasn't here. I was on my honeymoon. But I was actually throwing up in the car on the way to my honeymoon because I was sick. But that's a different story for a different day. But I'm sure he had I think he was the person that showed me who was the first and chiefest being God.
Yeah.
Showed me those videos.
Yeah.
But at my church in Kentucky, their kids ministry used the New City Catechism every week.
Yeah.
And so they were doing catechesis, one catechetical question a month, kind of like we do here. But the Apostles' Creed, I'm not really sure. I'm sure I'd heard it. Mm-hmm. And the Hillsong song we sang this last week, I'm sure I'd heard that song, but it probably wasn't until seminary that I understood what it was and where it came from and how old it was. But yeah, I think seeing the fruit of intentional catechesis, like especially with kids, is just like so convincing for the case that this repetitious collective learning is effective and rooted, right? It roots you not just in the ancient faith, but also in the local expression that you're in.
Yeah. Here's something I've been thinking about lately that's just been funny to me. Baptist, not historically, Baptist, you go back a little bit, we're very creedal people, but more recent Baptists have been this no creed but the Bible, right? Like we don't read creeds, we don't do creeds, all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny because in our Constitution, there's a creed. It's called the Baptist Faith and Message.
That's our creed.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, creed just means believe. It means I believe.
Well, I mean, every church has a statement. Every
creed
church
is a statement of faith.
Has a statement of faith. Yeah.
And so it's like we have the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, and it's like, did we not realize that's a creed?
Yeah.
So it's just a modern creed.
And it's just funny. It's like, it's people will be like, no creed but the Bible or whatever, and it's like, where do you think they got this? Like, where do you think they didn't pull it out of a hat?
Yeah,
it was from actually, like I think there's a case to be made to the Apostles' Creed. Some of it was not, it was not by the Bible. It was by because the Bible like didn't exist yet. They were just like writing letters to each other and writing the gospel. The Gospels had been written, and so there wasn't like a unified, bound Bible yet. But it's like, where do you think they got they didn't just make it up.
Yeah.
It's like, it's directly from the teachings of Jesus and the disciples. And so it's like, to believe the Apostles' Creed is not to believe in something extra biblical.
Right.
It's to believe in something like directly inspired by the divine word of God.
Yeah.
And so it's like I asked someone the other day, I was like, well, do you believe Jesus is God? It's like, well, yeah, of course. It's like, well, where does it say in the Bible, Jesus is God? It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the Bible does the three words in that order, Jesus is God, appear.
That clearly.
Yeah. And so like Jesus is God, and we can be confident Jesus is God, but it never says in the Bible.
And we get there from the scriptures, but it's
so to say the phrase, I believe Jesus is God, is a creed that is inspired by the Bible, but is not directly from the Bible.
We're going to say some things clearly.
Yeah. So I think it's super helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the creed. Well, one more thing, sort of generally about the creed. You read this quote from Dr. R. Albert Mohler Jr., president of the Southern Baptist Seminary and president of several other things. He said, "All Christians believe more than is contained in the Apostles' Creed, but none can believe less." Yeah. Explain that quote and why it's important to thinking about the creed.
Well, we certainly believe more, right? Like we believe as Baptists and baptism by immersion, we have a particular.
Yeah, why is that not in here?
Because it's.
I believe in baptism by immersion. I want to amend it.
Yeah. So like there are certainly things that we would disagree on, and we believe differently than other denominations. But these are the things that are in the creed that are what we would call first tier issues. That you must believe these things to be a Christian. Or at least you must not deny them, right? You may not have thought about it yet. But these are the essentials to the faith. These are the things that create our unity, right? So it's like, while we may disagree with our Presbyterian brothers on baptism, right, we can still have some sort of unity with them as Christian brothers.
Yeah.
And so this is what makes you a Christian, to believe these things.
Yeah. It's like that is it's like a good smell test, right? For someone's faithfulness to the gospel. Is like, can you affirm the Apostles' Creed?
Yeah.
right? Like I love, one of my favorite parts of the Apostles' Creed is I believe in the resurrection of the body.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's a direct response to Gnosticism in the early church, that they didn't believe in the resurrection of the body. They thought the body was bad.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important now too, because more progressive liberal churches will say, well, yeah, we believe in the resurrection of Jesus. It's the resurrection of his spirit, his identity, and the love that we have for each other. It's like, no.
Wrong.
It doesn't, and so it doesn't say I believe in the resurrection, because progressive, like liberal believers, they would say, oh, I believe in the resurrection.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I believe in the resurrection of the body, of Jesus' body and of my body.
Yeah.
So like just things like that are so helpful. And I would say probably if you can affirm the Apostles' Creed 95%, you're good. There's some questionable stuff, I think, like the descendant of hell thing, depending on how you think about it, and how you talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want people to hear like, well, I don't think Jesus went to hell, so are they saying I'm not a Christian? It depends on what you mean when you say that, right?
Just wait till that week. Hold on for that week.
Yeah, or I don't believe in the Catholic Church. I'm a Protestant.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hold up. Yeah.
I would say rightly, you believe it rightly understood.
Yeah, for sure. Just wanted to be.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to turn the podcast off because they're like, well, I don't believe this, so they're saying I'm not Christian. Okay, let's go through some of these main points of your sermon. First, the message of the Christian faith isn't about what we've done, but about believing that Jesus has done for us what we could never do ourselves. I think you just got that from the first two words.
I believe.
I believe.
Yeah.
So unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So knowledge doesn't save us, right? Like we can know things to be true. And those aren't what saves us. It's faith that saves us, belief that saves us. And I think particularly because, I make this point that knowing things doesn't lead us to action, doesn't actually change our lives. Like we can know I should eat this, or I can know I should exercise, or whatever. And it doesn't actually change our life. But when you believe something, it's not in your head, it's in your heart. And that actually leads to life change, not perfect life change, but it actually leads to life change. And so belief is what we're called to. And so you look at Romans 10:9, right? It's confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart. It's that belief in our heart that leads us to confess with our mouth and our whole life that Jesus is Lord and live that out. And so believing is what changes us. And so it's not even, so it's not knowing, and it's also not our actions. It's not, well, I did these things, or I've been religious, or I've done the religious services, I've checked the boxes. Right? It's not that. On the last day, it's not, hey, did you do this? It's, did you believe this? Did you believe in, basically the Apostles' Creed, right? Did you believe in God? Did you believe in Jesus and He's the Lord and raised from the dead, all those things?
Yeah. I think it kind of, for me, it goes back to that Moeller quote a little bit, that Christianity is the intellectual assent, the intellectual agreement to a set of beliefs. But it's also more than that.
Yeah.
It's like, I love this. I've become obsessed with this story that we heard at TGC where a guy talked about how he convinced this dude that the resurrection happened. And the guy was like, yeah, I think maybe Jesus was raised from the dead, but I guess weird stuff just happens sometimes. And the guy's like, no, what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's like, so he could intellectually assent to the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, but then just say like, yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And so he may have the right knowledge, but doesn't have the belief in the work of Jesus, the saving, just the justification, the sanctification, those things. And so, like, I think I part of my goal in some of my ministry areas is to push against this idea of like, hey, it's all about your personal fulfillment and your emotions and your personal relationship and all this stuff. It's like, no, there are doctrines that we believe, but those doctrines lead us to flourishing, to life, to all of those, to right action, to right speech, all of those things. And so I think that is like super important. And I think it's why the creed is so helpful, because it just gives you a baseline, right? Of like, here's the things that I never have to doubt, that I never have to worry about. It's like, I know
these are the closed
true.
Fist issues.
Yeah. And then I think, kind of the back half of this thing, not believing in ourselves, which hard already, but then believing in what Jesus has done for us, what we could never do ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Expound on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, I think you said this a couple weeks ago in the sermon. It's like the only thing we bring to our salvation is the problem, is the sin, right? And so Jesus has done all the work. God has done all the work in sending Jesus. And so we are believing in work done on our behalf. And it is that both mental assent and heart level trust in that story, in that proclamation, in that truth that saves us, not. So it's in what he has done, not what we have done.
Mm-hmm. It's
but
like
it's in what we've believed that he has done.
It reminds me of I think it's Kevin DeYoung talks about faith, and he talks about how he'd go ice skating on like a lake, and how they would test the lake for how thick the ice was, and they'd press on it to see how much weight it could take. And then if it was thick enough, they'd go out and skate, and if it was thick enough and strong enough, it would hold them. Yeah. It wasn't that they would just go skate out there and just like, I so trust that the ice is gonna hold me. It's like it actually doesn't matter how much they trust that the ice is gonna hold them. When they put their skate on the ice, they're putting their faith in the ice, and if it's strong enough, it will hold them. And so it's not how much faith you have, but it's the object, right? It's the direction of your faith. So that's why you talked about sort of like this sort of just like general like believism. It's like, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, it's not faith in faith.
Yeah, it's faith in Jesus.
It's in the object.
Yeah. I think that's super helpful. And knowing that the faith in Jesus comes from something you could never have done yourself. Yeah. You're just bringing negative to the table. So then we kind of move into the sort of doctrinal truth about who God is. So your first point, God is uncreated and self-existent. Pretty easy to comprehend and think about. Yeah. So we can just move on.
So I didn't throw this out here, but if you're nerdy and you want the theological word,
I am.
It's aseity. So particularly about he doesn't need anything.
Yeah, he's self-reliant.
Uncreated, self-reliant. It's like all those kinds of things. The aseity.
He need of nothing.
Yeah. And so like God, he is. I think I talk about Aquinas, right? The uncaused caused, or the unmoved mover. Everything has a cause and effect, right? Everything has been affected by some cause, and you go back. Something had to be the first cause that nothing caused it.
Well, we were talking in staff meeting on Sunday morning before the service. We were talking about, you were going to talk about the Big Bang Theory, not the television show, but the event, the hypothesized event. Yeah. And, you were talking about, it's like these amino acids or these elements or whatever. And then last night we were talking about some creation stuff, and you were talking about, well, only these 3 elements can exist, before the Big Bang allegedly. Yeah. And then I read a book recently that was like, well, really it's just like negative energy and how gravity is working on the negative energy that it inverts and creates
like,
matter or whatever.
Where did gravity come from?
Well, yeah, and it's like in every single one of those cases, there's always something before.
There's always an uncaused cause.
Yes,
something had to exist.
Yes, everyone believes that. Yeah, they have to.
Yeah,
it's like it's the reason there's something instead of nothing. Yeah, right. And so everyone has to answer. That's one thing Dr. Moeller always says is everyone has to answer the question: why is there something instead of nothing? Like what? Why? Why is there existence? Why is there matter? Why is there people? Why?
Yeah, I can't remember what the quote is, but Joe Rogan has had this kind of evolution toward like he's thinking maybe God. And so the other day he said, I wish I knew the quote, but it's like
it was probably like, wow.
Both of them make you.
Wow, Jamie, pull that up.
Both of them make you believe in a miracle. It's either the miracle that everything came from nothing, or Jesus raised from the dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, and Jesus raised from the dead makes way more sense.
That's kind of the two. Honestly, like that's kind of the two options. It's like, was there nothing, and then all of a sudden something with no reason? Yeah. It takes a lot of faith, I think, to believe
more
that.
Faith.
But yeah, and it's like only something supernatural can explain why I think effectively why there's something rather than nothing. So yeah, so uncreated, self-existent. I think we could talk about that for a long time. Anything else about God's aseity, his self-existence, his self-reliance?
Yeah, I didn't really bring this up in the sermon because it wasn't really the point of it.
Hey, that's what this is for.
But there is this sense where like that God is in need of nothing. I think there was a line from my sermon that was really that. What was that old band? Is the wrong word, but it was 3 dude singers. Phillips, Craig, and Dean. Did you ever listen to them?
I just want to be clear. That's a band.
Well, they don't play instruments; they just sing.
A cappella band.
I guess so. Okay.
Okay. But yeah. But sidebar, I have no idea who that is.
Oh,
so
well, they're like these, 90s, early 2000s Christian
I know
dudes.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
But there's
Peter,
a song
Paul,
they
and
sing,
Mary.
and I'm not sure if it's their song, but it's like, there's, gosh, what's the basically a line? I think it was like, oh, that's a Phillips Craig and Dean song from those. That he's in need of nothing, and so I've got this song stuck in my head, and I can only get it out if I sing it.
Give me some bars, man.
Anything he can give by your plan, that's just the way it is.
I have no idea.
You are God alone.
You are God alone from before time began.
You were on your throne.
Yeah. Oh, I do know that song.
Yeah, it may not be
just
theirs, I don't know.
just from worship.
But God doesn't create because he's lonely.
Oh yeah, I think this is super helpful.
Really, what I'm getting to, and so he's not in. It's not like he needed a relationship. He already has a relationship in himself because he's a Trinity. He's not.
Were you ever taught that in like Sunday school or anything like that? That God was like bored or lonely, and so he like made. No. I'm pretty sure someone taught me that.
Really?
Once. That's like God.
That's bad.
God wanted some. God. I mean, wanted is different. It's like God needed some.
Yeah.
Some. I don't know, like people to play.
What's that song that came out recently that was kind of caused this controversy?
Is that he didn't want heaven without us?
Yes,
that you're talking
that's
about?
it.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, but that caused it made us have the kind of culture have that question of, well, God is perfectly satisfied.
When we don't sing that song, and we sing that song, we don't say that line. And I think we should. That's my hot take.
That's your hot take.
It's not need. I'm not saying it doesn't say God need anything, but does God desire for all men to be saved?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bible says so. So he didn't want heaven without us. He didn't want it.
Yeah.
It's the only reason he would have sent Jesus.
It's technically true. I think for people,
that's the only kind of true I care about.
That's true. Ryan is a black and white sort of man. But it feels a little bit like God was lonely. I think that was people's issue.
You're the one that's misunderstanding it. It's like, but that's not what it's saying. Yeah. But you understand that's not what it's saying, right?
Yeah, yes.
I'm just kidding. No, that's what I would say. You can see how conversations in my house go. But you understand that's not what I said, right?
I think it was last night I came up here to pick up my daughter from youth, and I don't even know what happened, but y'all were playing this game, and you were arguing about something or whatever, and Michael Sprague was like, he could be a lawyer. I went, you have no idea.
That is so funny.
Had God not called you to ministry, that's probably your calling.
My parents used to say that all the time. They're like, you're going to make a really good lawyer someday, because I just argue about anything. Okay, so God's uncreated, self-existent, and he's almighty. Now, I want to be clear for the folks at home, on the TV, that it's not almighty, A-L-M-I-G-H-T. It's A-L-L space M-I-G-H-T-Y.
Yeah.
Almighty.
He's the most mighty.
What? Okay.
He's more mighty than ever. I mean, that's what almighty means. It's just, I know. It's just the two words combined.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, Israel, they have this word, El Shaddai, right? That God is.
A song by Michael Card.
Yeah. Not
Rich Mullins. Not Richard Mullins.
But yeah, that God is the overcomer, right? And so he's overcome armies and enemies and hunger, and he's overcome all of their problems. And there's nothing too big for God. He is the most mighty. He is more mighty than all of their foes. And so he can overcome whatever they face.
Yes. Some might say that God is so big. He's so strong. He's so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do.
That's true. My kids would say that.
It's true. The mountains are his, valleys are his, the stars are his handiwork too.
There's nothing my God cannot do.
I love that song. You got the clap. But sorry. Yeah, so I think that's pretty a pretty self-explanatory point. It's like I mean we said this at I've been teaching VBS all week, and so I'll ask them, does God know your name? And they'll be like, yeah. It's like, does God know how many hairs are on your head? Yeah. It's like, does God know everything about you? Yeah. And just like, kids just know, like we innately know that.
Yeah.
Like if there is a God, it's funny. We sort of reject this notion of like the Greek sort of understanding. It's like, there's like, we don't want any weak gods, right? Like,
is this the point where I did the Atlas thing? Holding the earth?
Yeah, probably.
Those images were AI generated, which is
I could tell.
Just funny to me.
I knew,
but I had to do the Atlas one because all the statues of Atlas, or most of the statues of Atlas,
and paintings,
he's naked.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and the Michael Jordan one, I just had this picture in my mind. Like I feel like that was a real picture. Like he's just spinning the basketball.
I know. I kind of had that thought too.
But then
it's probably in Space Jam. It's probably in Space Jam.
Probably. But I just thought, I was like, man, this really just sums up for me the difference between.
It's funny you say that. It's like, because I do think, it's like maybe we all get, innately or, whatever, that God is almighty. But I do think that we sometimes think he's so important and like knows everything that he can't like know me, or he's so busy, keeping the world up that he's tapped out, right? Like that's what God does. Yeah. It's sort of like this deist sort of idea of God that he like keeps the universe going, but then is like, but I don't have any space. I don't have any bandwidth for anything else.
Right.
And like the Atlas picture of him struggling under the weight. And so some of the points of VBS, this is kind of what VBS has been about. And so this sermon has actually paired really well with some of my VBS lessons. But it's like the things we're teaching kids is like, God made everything and he still cares about you. God keeps everything going, everything in the universe going, and he still cares about what's happening to you, right? And so it's like, there's a whole song at VBS. It's called Spinning. It's about how the earth is spinning and the moon is spinning around the earth and the earth is spinning around the sun, and God's keeping all of that spinning going, and he still cares about loving and caring about his people. Yeah. And he can do both.
Yeah. That's great.
I think it's so cool.
I got to throw this out just for the faithful listeners. I don't even remember who it was. Was it Michael Peters?
Michael Peters.
Michael Peters.
Literally, okay, before Brent tells the story, I want you to know he texted me a picture that Brent's about to describe. And I am sitting on the front row and Brent's preaching, and I try not to be distracting. And I'm like crying because I'm like holding in laughter about what he has sent me. So the picture of Michael Jordan.
He's holding the earth under his finger, spinning under his finger. And Michael Peters sends us a picture of, this is what it would be like for flat earthers. And it's a pizza guy throwing up some dough.
Throwing the dough. It's like Chef Boyardee, like throwing the dough. It's so funny.
So for you flat earthers
they wouldn't like the spinning song at VBS probably either.
Probably not.
Well, so God's uncreated, self-existent, almighty, and he's the creator of all things, including you. Yep. And why is that important to know and point out?
Well, here's one reason. Gosh, there's so many layers to this. I mean, he's the uncaused cause, right? He's created everything. He's the sustainer of everything, right? But it really becomes down to a practical level too, right? We've been Mormons have come up a lot lately, and one of the things we just discovered about Mormons that we didn't know.
Yes, this is crazy.
Mormons do not believe in creation ex nihilo, meaning out of nothing. They believe that we've kind of always existed, kind of the pre-existence of the soul, and that we just kind of flew down and kind of were embodied at one point, and Jesus was pre-existent, but as a man and then became a god or whatever. And so everything was just kind of here, and now the God of this particular universe has kind of arranged it or whatever.
Going.
And it's like, no, the Creator tells us
so good
that God, the Father, has created everything. He is the creator. He is the very beginning, and nothing was before him, and he made all things. And that stands in quite the contrast to Mormonism.
Yeah. That I had not even thought about that application because we've been talking about that. But that you can sort of, you pre-exist, right? And so like there's this notion that God didn't design you. Right?
Yeah.
God didn't make you who you are.
Yeah.
God didn't breathe life into you or
and I don't know what Mormons would say about
yeah, me neither. But I feel like that for me, if I believed that would be a natural, assumption that I would make.
Yeah.
And that then any part of me that I thought was broken or messed up or not what I wanted it to be, I would only have myself to blame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I should have pre-existed differently, but it's like now I can say, oh no, God has designed me this way.
Yeah.
And even in the parts of myself that I may not like, God gave them to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can trust that because he's good, he didn't make me as athletic as a lot of people I grew up around. and that was frustrating as a kid. And I would only have myself to blame if I pre-existed.
Yeah.
But now I can say, like, oh no, God made me this way for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that is such a good lesson and just a hopeful lesson in 2025, I think.
Yeah.
Because people do struggle with that.
Yeah.
And so to know that they're made by God, designed by God
intentionally
for good works, right? For the good works prepared for you beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super helpful.
So I think, you think about Mormonism, I think that's relevant to that. But then also just these two competing worldviews and how your origin story changes how you see the world and all of your foundational beliefs and values and everything. It's like, if you believe everything is a cosmic accident that is pointless and meaningless and just random, there's no such thing as morality. There's no such thing as justice. Your life, death, suffering, pain, none of it matters. It's just random. It's inconsequential.
It's survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah. And
it's like, so any bad thing that happens, you're just like, well, I'm more fit than them.
Yeah. It's all nature. Versus a view of the world that says, no, you're created intentionally with purpose and value and dignity and worth. And so your life matters, your suffering matters. There is real, actual justice coming.
Yep.
Life doesn't end in death. It's eternal. It's like, man, even if that weren't true, I'd want it to be true. It's like, you're looking at these two worldviews. It's like, I want this one to be true. Yeah.
You're like Puddle Glum in the
exactly.
in the shadow.
I want to live as if that's true, whether it is or not. So I just think your origin story really matters for the worldview that you're going to have. And really accounting for, it's not the point of the sermon, but accounting for morality, you can't do it outside of God. And the fact that people try just exposes the massive hole in their worldview. It's like, it's just your opinion. It's just what you think is right. And it's like, well, if I think something else is right, it doesn't matter. So it's like, we have this objective standard because God, who's outside of us, has made us with purpose and beauty and told us what's right and wrong and all those things. Yeah. So I think that really matters and it's important. Your origin story.
Yeah, that's good. So then you ended on this note and
I did the baby illustration. These twins in the womb, right? And they're
chit-chatting.
And they're chit-chatting. Like, one's the skeptic and the other one's like, well, there must be life after delivery. Like, life after delivery, it's absurd. The umbilical cord is not that long, right? And all these things. And you made the funny joke, right? That this baby is not making great arguments about life after delivery. But the thing that the illustration does for me, just show, because we're on this side of delivery and we know the truth, it just shows the absurdity. And as it echoes,
and the stubbornness, I think
the stubbornness, and the blindness, and as it echoes the conversation now post delivery, and as we think about eternal life, and it's like, man, how sad is it that they cannot see what's all around them and right in front of them? So
yeah, for sure. So you ended on this point, which could be the last word, but I'll let you expand on it because it is so good. The God who spoke galaxies into existence, the Almighty, doesn't keep his distance. He invites us to know him personally, not just as creator and king, but as father. So I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. I think, the place you wanted to land here is that we don't just call God creator. We don't just call him Lord. We call him Father. Why is that important?
Yeah. We talked about a minute ago, the importance of theological truth and accuracy and all those things. And I think it's because if we want to have a personal relationship with God, you got to know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know him rightly.
Mm-hmm.
And to know him rightly is to know him, as, with aseity and with all the big words and all who he is. He's uncreated, he's unchanging. But then that he's Father, and that he's not just angry Zeus in the sky with a lightning bolt ready to strike you down. He's not just a king, and we're just spokes on his wheel, and we're just pawns in his game. But like Tim Keller says, that we at 3 a.m. can wake the king up for a glass of water. No one else can do that, right? A guard comes, hey, Your Majesty, can I get a glass of water? You fired, like you get out of here, right? But when the kid does,
yep,
he gets up and gets the water
prince.
for him. And so it's like we have this access and this position and this love because he's and I think it's important to say it's not I'll treat you like a father or like a son. Not, hey, let's let our relationship be like this, but that officially and legally and in every way possible, we actually now are that thing.
Yeah.
We are heirs to the throne because we are sons and daughters.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like that Dr. Moore story you told. It's like, which ones are yours? All of them. Well, which ones are really yours? No, really all of them.
Yeah. They may have come in different ways, but that makes them no less mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we could do a whole podcast about this, but that's part of our union with Christ is that Jesus is uniquely God's son.
Yeah.
In a way that we now participate in as his adopted sons and daughters. Yeah. And that comes with access and, Abba Father. Here's my question. Should I pray Daddy God then?
It's a little cringy, I feel like.
Like it's not necessarily wrong. It's just cringe.
It's not wrong. It's just cringy.
I want to make that a shirt.
Not wrong, just
not
cringy.
wrong, just cringe.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And I don't know why it's cringe.
Just the word daddy is cringe, I think.
Yeah. That's like, that's what Abba means. That's what a kid would call his dad, Abba.
Yeah. Because it's easy to say, like mama or dada.
Yeah. And so.
Dada God.
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't do it because it's irreverent. Like, I think.
I would maybe say that, but.
Like, I think there's a time and a place for reverence before God. But there's also a time for intimacy with God.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Yeah. That's what I'd say.
But, I don't know. It's just a little crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's some of the best pastoral wisdom I've ever heard in my life. It's like, that's not wrong. You're just kind of cringy.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to go home and think about that. Maybe apply that to my life in some ways. Any final words on I believe in God the Father, Almighty, maker of heaven and earth?
Come back next week for in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord. Eternally begotten, not created.
Ooh, maybe. Maybe we'll have some discussion about that.
Okay.
Not that he's created, but is he
eternally begotten?
Is he begotten?
Yeah.
It's a fascinating word.
Yeah, what does begotten even mean?
Well, it's not in every translation. Like John 3:16, his only begotten son, not always there.
Really?
Yeah. So interesting to talk about. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the recap. We hope this conversation has encouraged you to keep striving to make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. If you aren't part of our church family, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning. We gather for worship at 10:30 a.m. For more information, you can always go to myfellowship.church. Thanks for listening. Be blessed.